you guys doing today? I'm your host, Tom Venafro Jr., and as mentioned, I've got my father here, Tom Venafro Sr. We're looking to talk about a few things, right? We're going to talk about how we can help businesses in this area. In addition, we're going to talk about some real estate trends, but I think we're going to start first with my dad here, born and raised in Ducktown, Atlantic City. We're going to hear a few stories and also learn a little bit about his experience. We'll take it from there. So first off, Dad, how was your flight in?
Well, thank you very much for having me first. I'm happy to be here. My first podcast.
Yeah.
But very exciting event. My drive here was it took a few days.
You drove?
I drove, yeah.
See, I don't know. What do I know?
Well, you have to, you listen to your father.
I'm a
you'll know these things.
terrible listener.
Yeah, we drove. It was nice. We stopped overnight in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Okay.
Got here yesterday. Yeah. And, just getting straightened out, a lot of travel. Because I was in Texas a few days before that. So I've been traveling for a good 4 or 5 days.
Okay. I know you're running the 55 and up down there in Florida, but we miss you here in New Jersey.
Yes. Well, it's nice. We're in this 55 and over area in Parrish, Florida, called Del Webb Bayview, and it's a beautiful development.
Hey.
We refer to it as Shangri-La.
Okay.
There's a beautiful pool. There's a huge clubhouse. There's a lot of activities, a lot of like-minded people.
Yeah. Well, and you got 4 Seasons here.
Yes, and when we're here, we stay at the Four Seasons out in Smithville.
There you go.
That's also 55 and over.
Yep, we got a lot of 55 and up listeners. We're going to be doing business with a lot of 55 and uppers. It doesn't hurt to talk about it a little bit, but I want to get to the Ducktown conversation. I want to get to Atlantic City that grandfather came up in, that you came up in. I want to hear all about it. So tell me, how did you get to this point from growing up in Ducktown, and where is everybody now? Are they all still in this area? Did they move?
Well, I mean, no, most people moved out, but it really started, the exodus from Ducktown probably really started in the 60s, I would say. But
okay.
My great-grandfather came from Italy, the Naples area. Uh-huh. And then my grandfather was born in Philadelphia, and they were barbers and upholsterers. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of businesses they had.
Shout out to my barber. I said I'd shout out John Fades. Big shout out to you. Appreciate you. Thanks for getting me right yesterday. I need that. Go ahead, Dad.
Yeah,
Hop back in.
You're tight. You're tight there.
Yep, shout out to John. I told him I'd shout him out. All right.
Yeah, so then my grandfather came from Philadelphia around 1919 and opened up a little convenience store, a cigar shop, ice cream. Yep. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of your grandfather standing in that store on Georgia Avenue.
Okay. And drop some names on us. Don't be afraid to drop some names.
Yeah. So then they opened up a bigger place, and then they opened up they expanded it, and they had a little bar where they would serve beer and alcohol. And then then your grandfather ended up going to the war, and was in the World War II, North Africa, with Patton, and landed in Anzio back in Italy. Yep. And then when he came back, him and your grandmother got married, and he met your grandmother at a USO dance in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
There you go. Yep, she's originally Harrisburg girl.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
But he brought her back to the city.
He brought her back here. They got married.
Yep.
And then they opened up a large bar and restaurant. My grandfather, it was called the Village Bar.
Yep.
And it was right on the other side of the street, basically on the other corner from the 500 Club. So there was a lot of nightclubs on the street that I grew up on.
That's right.
And then your grandfather, he worked there for a while, and then he opened his own bar down on Drexel Avenue in the inlet here.
That's right.
And he catered to a lot of the fishermen and, the locals there.
Tell me about what that was like at both bars. Like, what was the clientele?
It's always been just kind of a local pub,
Both at Village Bar and at Drexel?
No, the Village Bar was more of was a larger place that had dance bands.
Yeah.
You would go there for weddings.
That's right. Yeah.
It was a bigger restaurant. It was more of a big restaurant and show place.
Okay. Okay.
But the bars that your grandfather had was the Drexel, and then he opened up a place called Little Ted's Lounge right on Atlantic and between Missouri and Georgia Avenue. Mm-hmm. And so while that was going on, by this time I'm the youngest of 4 boys, and we all went to St. Michael's School.
That's right.
So just so everyone understands, Ducktown, which is the Italian American section, really got established in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and the majority were immigrants from Sicily, and they actually had a lot to do and contributed to the building of St. Michael's Church, which on Mississippi Avenue, which is the centerpiece of Ducktown. And Ducktown is called Ducktown because back near the bay, the Italian immigrants built duck houses to raise ducks and chickens in.
Okay.
So that's actually how Ducktown got called Ducktown.
There you go.
So, when I came up, that's what was going on. And then my brothers were in the neighborhood. It was a great place to grow up. Talk about, life is a village. Ducktown was a village. Yeah. You could go anywhere, but go in anyone's house. Everybody was your parent.
That's right. And when I went to the Noise Art Garage, I remember I met with an artist, Miss Meridino, and you knew her grandmother.
Yes.
And that's what she painted about, was her grandmother's experience and visiting her grandmother. And so I made sure to speak with her. That was interesting. But we still have some folks in the area that are doing some good things. So I'm hoping that maybe we can opine on that in the future. But back to the story. I want you to talk about what led to the closing of the bars, what led to the selling off of the properties after the high life
in Ducktown.
Specifically, our situation, our family situation.
Well, I mean, my grandfather and grandmother who owned, and we all lived on the same street. So It was the Capones owned the bar on our street. The Fideli's owned Ferraris, which is on the corner of Missouri, right across from the which was Trump Plaza, and the DeFeos owned DeFeo's Lounge. They took it over. It used to be Reds Morgan's. Across the street from that was the Libristro Club, and one block down in between all of them was the 500 Club, which is where Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis got their start.
Yeah.
And Frank Sinatra also used to perform there. So that was a mainstay, this street. So I grew up on a street that was full of nightclubs. So I didn't really have the suburban, idyllic type of
it's all right.
Of being brought up. I mean, there was mobsters, there was gang wars, there was race wars, and I was in the midst of all of it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Interesting. Yeah. Interesting to hear all about it.
But what brought the neighborhood change. People started moving out. They worked hard, and then they began to be able to move, and automobiles and highways, and people started moving out. And this has happened in almost all cities. Talk about 100%. New Haven, Connecticut. Everywhere you go, it's
100%.
All the same.
Now, wasn't there a scenario though where someone working for Grandpa got killed, and that was kind of a moment where he said, "You know what?"
Yes,
that's right.
My father had a partner, and he came in and he was held up, and they shot him. And then I think it was, I don't remember if it was after that or before, but then there was the hurricane.
Okay.
And I think between those two things, and then of course, look, at the time your grandfather was booking horses. He was a bookie.
Yeah, no.
And then he got caught by the New Jersey ABC, right? The Alcohol Beverage Control Board.
Yeah, yeah.
They caught him with the numbers in his hand. They used to book courses. This was Atlantic City. This was not anything out of the ordinary. Everybody was doing some sort. Today you call them a side gig. I guess that we could call them back then a side gig.
Yeah.
The gig economy. This isn't something new, everyone. The gig economy's been going on for years.
That's right. Yeah.
There's things that I did on the side to make extra money. It was just the way Atlantic City rolled. I mean, no one thought anything of it.
That's right.
So then, that bar left, and then that's when he opened up another bar.
Well, before you move on to the other bar, can you talk about the horse track a little bit?
Atlantic City Race Course?
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Well, my uncle worked there.
Yeah.
My uncle, Tony Passarella.
Yeah.
He was a painter there. And still in the area, I have my cousin Nanette.
Yeah.
Who lives here, and Anna Marie.
And you mentioned DeFeo. That last name sounds really familiar. They're still in the area.
Dane DeFeo he's not. He's in my area now. Dane DeFeo and his family opened up DeFeo's Lounge.
Okay.
Which used to be Red's Morgan's, and then they opened it, and they had various iterations of their business.
Yeah, yeah.
And then finally, I think it was right around when the financial debacle happened. Dane and his family decided to sell the place.
Okay.
And then Dane moved to Florida. I think it's at least 15 years now.
There you go.
And he's down there as a musician, and I've been down there. I've played with him.
I know. I see you with the musician plug. You're gonna plug that. That's all right. You can
plug the musicians.
Go ahead, plug it. I know you want to put that plug in there.
No, I mean I was in bands with Dane, and
yeah, no, I know. Yeah, we had good times. I grew up actually. I feel like I grew up in smoke-filled bars, constantly.
Not really. But there was always musicians
I was at every
in our
show.
house.
There was always musicians in our house. I was constantly like that kid sitting in the booth while you had a gig, constantly. Yeah, I was at like casinos constantly.
Yeah, I played in all the casinos.
Every casino, and I was what would you call me? I would carry all the equipment. That's what I did.
You were my roadie.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You got to have a roadie.
Yeah, I had fun when we did the. My favorite was the Atlantic City St. Patrick's Day Parade with Entourage Band. That was good.
Yeah, we were on the McGettigan's float.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we had a keg of beer in the back of the float, like hidden with all these things hanging over it.
Yeah. All right, man. Let me get you back to you were about to mention a bar that was opened up, right?
A bar that was opened up with you mean DeFeo's or
No. You were talking about after he got caught.
Oh yes, and then he went to work at the convention center for a while.
Yeah.
But then after that he opened up his own bar, Little Ted's Lounge.
Okay.
And
so that's when Little Ted's Lounge came into play.
Little Ted's Lounge.
What was that? More of just like a party spot?
No, it was just a local pub.
Okay.
And it was around the corner from St. Mike's, and your grandfather actually promoted and sponsored like our basketball team.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
We had shirts that said Ted's Lounge.
There you go.
Nice. And I never forget it because in the bar there was a huge hand-painted mural of a mermaid. It was kind of it was a maritime type theme inside.
Okay.
And then after that is when he went to work. I think for a little bit he started to work at Howard Johnson's, which is now Caesar's.
Yeah.
And that was part. I was mentioning it before. My career here started off right next to where we're sitting in. Is this here Ocean One, right?
Yeah.
That's the actual address of where we're sitting, Ocean One Pier. But right next door on this beach, Missouri Avenue, is when I started my working career, renting out chairs and umbrellas and bringing them down and setting them up for people.
We're gonna get to you, but I want to hear about delivering bread. Who'd you bump in? That was your first job, right? Was delivering bread in Ducktown. Was that not your first job?
Yeah, I can't. Maybe that was, and then I went to. I can't. Yeah, maybe it was the chairs, but
Yeah.
they were one was right next to each other.
Okay. And what was it like delivering bread? Was everybody getting bread that way? Everybody was having their bread delivered?
There was trucks too, but
Yeah.
locally, it was dangerous. I would work in the bakery, and then they would fill this basket that was on this bike that wasn't a great bike.
Yeah, no, I'm sure
with
not.
these bags with 24 loaves of bread in them. And I was just maybe, I don't know, 11, 12. And they would say, okay, you got 4 bags of bread. Take it to Bellinopoli, Luigi's, Maria's restaurant. They were like different restaurants in the neighborhood. And I would have to ride the bike with these big bags of bread, but I couldn't sit down because then I couldn't see where I was going.
I see what you mean. Yeah, if the bread was stacked too high.
Well, the bags were.
Now, who'd you do that for again?
Panarella Bakery,
Okay.
which was right next to Dante Hall on Mississippi Avenue.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Now, talk to me about like the heyday working at Playboy, or if you want to talk a little bit about prior to Playboy, that's fine too. But you went from the chair business to what?
Well, then, I worked a little stint like at Irene's Souvenir Shop, which everyone worked. There must have been like 4 Irenes. Everybody worked at there. But then I actually started working where we're sitting right now. This used to be called $1 Million Pier.
Yeah. Okay.
And I worked here as a carny. I was a carny. I would, people would come up and play the water gun game.
Okay.
With the machine gun, try to shoot out the star.
Yeah, you were always good at that. You won all the time. I would constantly I was like, man, I'm getting these prizes. He's pretty good.
Yeah, there was that. And, there's all different kind of games. I never worked the rides. I was always a carny guy. And it was great. I worked, during the day usually. And, there was one time, I remember one hot day I was working here. And I says, man, I'm going to go. And I just walked to the back of the pier where they stored all the stuffed animals.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was me and I think 2 other guys. And we jumped off the back of the pier into the deep side of the ocean and really didn't think anything of it. I mean, what were we thinking? There could have been pilings, that. I could have, frankly, I think growing up in Ducktown, I'm really thankful that I'm alive and sitting here now.
Yeah, I mean, you could talk about the paddle situation if you want. If not, we don't have to tell
You
that
mean the
story.
fraternities?
Yeah, yeah.
Nah, that's
all right,
pass on that.
All right. All right, yeah, we're keeping a few things out. We don't want YouTube to demonetize us or anything.
No, I mean, we all did some things we regret.
All right. So, listen, we were talking about how we need to fill this place up. We've got too many empty storefronts, right? And it saddens me. We're going to get back to your Playboy job experience, etc. But I want to find a way how we can make this area thrive and specifically fill some of these empty units. We've got empty units to fill, and we've got competition everywhere. We've got competition right next door in Margate. Okay, we've got competition in New York as well as Philadelphia, and I'm really trying to bring some solutions. So we'll get to that in the second half of this podcast, but back to your job experience. Talk to me about the heyday, Playboy, all that.
Yeah, so then I was when my father was working at Howard Johnson's, I was also a room service waiter there. And then I had left high school in 78. I went to Atlantic Community College. I was taking music and acting. And then when the casinos came, your grandfather says to me, what are you doing with this music and acting?
No, I hear you.
You know what I mean? You're going to be a pauper.
Oh, yeah. No, I already know that that's how you were raised because you raised me the same way. Like, for example, we wanted to make this podcast maybe talk about self-improvement, a little bit of self-help, how you can do things better. And I thought to myself, you know what? Your way of having us get things done was, let me throw you down a flight of steps, and if you get back to the top, that means you self-improved.
Please don't exaggerate. No, but sometimes that's part of what I think is lacking today is some tough love.
I think
right?
it would help. We're
There's
definitely
way too much coddling.
Way too much coddling.
Today. So, but then I started to work as a dealer in Caesars when Caesars opened. Back then it was called the Boardwalk Regency. Before it was called Caesars. Yeah. Although Caesars owned it. So then I became a dealer, and then from there I went to Playboy as a supervisor, and all during this period of time, from the time I was like 14 to the time I was in the casino business, which is up to 23, I was studying music. I was taking private drum lessons.
This was the place to do it.
And I was playing
music was everywhere.
Yeah, and I was playing in a few bands, but I had this job, and I used to work nights. The shifts were crazy sometimes, but I remember at Playboy, even when I would take my break, I would go sit in with the band in the lounge on my break.
Yeah.
And then finally I said, you know what? For me, the casino business was just too boring and repetitious. I wasn't enjoying it. So this is now I'm in it for 5 years. So I went to Disney World to visit a friend of mine that was a drummer down there from Philadelphia. Yeah. His family owned Priori's restaurant on 10th and Wolf in Philadelphia. Just another place where there was a mob hit, just a little sidebar. But then I went to visit him, and he took me to see this band called Mark and Clark, the identical twins.
Yep, that's right. I'm glad you're getting into this.
Concert grand pianos, and I had a few Manhattans, and I had no business having business cards in my hand that said, Tom Venafro, drummer, experienced and versatile. I wasn't experienced, nor was I versatile. But on the way out, I handed them my card, and I go, hey, guys, these two twin brothers, I think I can make your music sound better. But unbeknownst to me, they call your grandmother here, my mother, and say, hey, where's your son? We want to audition him. Well, he's in Orlando. So they call me my hotel, and next thing you know, they said, we want to audition you. We need a new drummer and bass player. And then while I was on vacation, I was there. I didn't have any drums. So they actually had an album out with Columbia Records, because they used to own a nightclub in Fort Lauderdale called the Keyboard Cabaret, and they got a record deal. And I told you, Paul Schaefer was their keyboard player on the record, and some other guys. But anyway, they gave me an audition. They said, here's our album. We want you to learn these cuts off this album. I don't know how many it was, 4 or 5. So I just bought Sony Walkman, and now you know how old I am when I talk about a Sony Walkman.
I had one too. I loved it.
And I walked around Epcot for a day listening, and then the next day I went in and I played, and they hired me.
And this was the exit from the casino business.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. For years, you didn't even want me to get involved. You were upset I even took a job at Revel.
You
didn't want me involved.
It's no good.
Well, before we bash anything,
I'm just saying.
Let's talk about the pros, though, right? So some pros are it is good money. It's great money. Okay.
It gave people employment that otherwise, maybe wouldn't have got employment. So no, it was a good economic driver, but unfortunately, the forces were not able to make it sustainable.
Yeah.
So then I went on the road playing music with them and other bands for about 6 years, and then when I came back, that's when I met your mother, and I went back to college for environmental science. And
yep. We're good. We're good. I want to talk about, before we move on, I really want to talk about what you saw supplement the casino business. So when the casino business wasn't able to be a strong enough force for the economy, what came in and started to supplement some of that so that there were still jobs? Because I've seen some supplementation, right, from the FAA that helped bring jobs to the area. Because we could talk Atlantic County, too. It doesn't have to be just the city.
I don't think we can talk about the FAA and the hospital, which is now Atlanticare. I don't think that you could say that they supplemented. I think they were entities on their own.
Got it.
So if you want to talk about supplementing the beginning to fail casino business, I mean, they tried some things, right? They put the AAA, the AC Surf, the AAA baseball in, and that was okay. That went for what, I don't know, maybe 6 years, but then that died out.
The Boardwalk Bullies.
Yeah, there's several things. So you have to, I think what has to happen here, and at this point we can wrap it up and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Sounds good.
But I think what has to happen here is you need a conversation about why did it fail. So you need to do a why analysis. Why this? Why that? Why that? And I can get into that because we're both process improvement people.
Yep.
Right?
You know it.
But when you begin to really nail down the whys things happen, is only then can you begin to work on the corrective actions. And I think there is possibilities, but there's many things that have to be done before that. I mean, first, let me tell you why I think I have a good perspective on this.
Okay.
You know, my background is in quality management systems and environmental health and safety management systems. And I presently work for the British Standards Institute part-time. And what I do is I audit companies to the ISO standard. And that's the International Standards Organization, which many companies have. And that basically what that says is that's a certification that a company gets that says that they have a quality management system in place that ensures that a good quality product or service is provided. And then what I do is I come back once a year to these different companies and ensure that they're following the system that they're certified to, right? So that's what I do. And in that, I've also gotten about 8 companies certified from the ground up. Now, one of the most important things in this standard, you know, there's like 126 shall statements, and there's, I think, about
For our listeners,
shall statements. Yeah. There's just things in the standard that you must do, and then it's really based on continual and continuous improvement. So now, how do you do that? Well, when something's going wrong, you have to decide, hey, we keep messing this up. I think we need a process or we need a work instruction. And what that does is that creates a template for everyone to follow. So then what do you have from that? You have consistency.
standardization.
Once you have standardization, you have consistency. Once you have consistency, you can control quality and improve things. There's a reason why we could go to McDonald's here, or I could go to one in Sarasota, Florida, and get the same burger. How do they do that? It's from standardization, right? Okay. So now let's take Atlantic City, right? We want to talk about. Yeah. So, you know, Atlantic City has a history of peaks and valleys of economic growth and depression, right? It's happened. I mean, the whole reason, you know, back in the day with you know, when they got the railroad here, it peaked, and then when the railroad kind of died down and things died down because then there was highways, you know, so things change. So you have to say to yourself, okay, as a city, when you look back historically, how many times does this happen and how can we keep it from happening? How can we create consistency? Well, first I'll think Atlantic City, you got to get the right people sitting at the table. So you form a team and you develop a problem description, which I think we have. What's going wrong? And you keep asking why. Well, why have casinos closed? Why does the area look blighted? Why is there this? Why have people moved away from the area? And, you know, there's all kinds of reasons for that. But, you know, where the city was on a peak, I'm going to say it was probably around 1990, 95, right before other states started to get casinos. But what happened was Atlantic City dropped the ball. They didn't change. You know, and the only thing for sure is change. You got to remember that.
Sure.
And when you get complacent, which is what happened here, they were never thinking out of the box to say, what else can we bring to the city that's going to support, like think of Vegas, right? You go to Vegas, there's excursions you could go on. You could go to the Red Rocks region. Yeah. You could go to Hoover Dam. You could go on 4 ATV rides. You know, they have
festivals. They've got festivals.
Right. There's other things. And that was tried here. But then again, some of those things were tried. So why didn't it work? And I think you have to get to that. Right now, I mean, look, I'm going to be truthful. Atlantic City has a very bad reputation. Okay, when I mention to someone, hey, I'm from Atlantic City, they go, whew, I wouldn't go there again, right? This is the kind of response I get. So why is that? I think the first thing is, regardless of whatever idea or solution that someone comes up to fix things.
I know where you're going with this.
It's not going to work unless people feel safe.
And there's been some great efforts towards that, safety. I will admit, I've seen a lot of it.
I think that's the first why and problem that has to be solved.
Okay.
And so now...
And this is your outside perspective, right? I wanted to interject that there may be people that have done these analyses.
Yeah. I'm
sure
just telling you.
there has been. Outside perspective, which we're open to. I want to hear it.
Yeah, so you got to fix it. And then on top of fixing things, the other thing that's developed over the last 15 years is it's developed a bad reputation. So not only do you have to fix the structural underpinnings,
That's why we have visited
but you
Atlantic
also
City.
got to fix how you overcome the bad reputation.
We've got Visit Atlantic City. We've got some organizations that are working towards that. We really do. But I understand maybe a more robust effort needs to occur.
And it's got to be a concerted effort. Every owner has to be on the same page. This is a very difficult thing
That's where
to
that
do.
standardization can come into play.
Right. And I mean, it's sad because look, we're on a beach here. Now, granted, it's not wonderful, right, in the winter, but part of the planning is, okay, when the season, look, the whole reason that the Miss America pageant was even developed was to extend the season by 2-3 weeks. That's the whole,
Really?
It's the entire reason Miss America pageant, because if you know, I think the Miss America pageant is somewhere like the 16th or 17th of September. So usually,
Maybe it was.
well, yeah, yeah. So why was that? They wanted to extend the season by a few weeks, and that's why it came about.
That local summer. Yeah.
Yes. So and then it ended up, extending it maybe to the third week.
Okay.
Right. And the other thing is, when I was here and I was your age, I tried to get a Columbus Day parade going
Here we
on
go.
the boardwalk.
Here we go. I got to bust your chops.
Well,
Here
we can't
go.
forget about the
Here we
Italians.
go.
I mean, come on, right? The Irish had the St. Patty's Day parade.
No, I hear you.
And I tried to do it, and I might as well. It was like taking a ball-peen hammer and just smacking myself in the head with it. It was like an impossible thing. Like, you couldn't get past go.
Well, you did it through Unico, right? I remember you would take me to Unico meetings and at
Yeah, but I tried also with that. I just couldn't. It just no one was interested, And then, guess what? Good thing. Because it's like Christopher Columbus now is this bad guy.
All right, we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get
He's
into
like this
that.
bad guy. I don't know.
We're not going to get into that.
What do they call it now? What do they call it?
I got to reel you in.
No. This is an issue with the Italians. Now the Italians are getting stuck. What is it? Indigenous Person Day or something?
Listen, I'm not going to get into that.
I don't care what anybody says. For me, it's Christopher Columbus.
All right. Back to the real conversation, Atlantic City. So we get it. You tried to do a Christopher Columbus Day parade. You couldn't get it working. Now, with that experience, okay, because I've done community affairs for a township here, and I found it to really be smooth, honestly. But it was also much smaller than Atlantic City. So maybe were you unable to get the right key stakeholders involved? Could that have been it?
Yeah, that.
And do you think that there's other people that are having
red
these
tape.
same struggles? Do you think there's some struggles that are happening to this day? There may be a parade or a festival that's trying to happen here in the city that we just don't know about.
No doubt. I guarantee probably. I mean, I would just. It seems likely that it's a difficult thing, or else maybe more would be happening, right? I mean, think of the things that just kind of gone past the wayside already over the last 5 years. That there used to be some more festivals on the beach that aren't there. Am I correct? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we've actually had some great festivals. We've had Tidal Wave Music Fest. Okay, that's been in the area. Now we did lose the air show for a moment, but there's some work being conducted to keep it here.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about solutions, though. Right? There's a lot.
There you go. That's what I want to hear.
Solutions.
That's what I want to hear.
We can always talk about what went wrong.
Rose-colored. What do they call it? Rose-colored glasses. That's what I want.
Yeah. So what are the solutions? Right. That's the big question, and I don't know that there's any one answer. I mean, this has been beginning since the mid-50s, and when it really, the beginning of the end, I'm going to just let you know.
Okay, let's hear it.
When there was the 1964 Democratic Convention here.
Okay, I do recall you telling me about this. Continue.
Right,
and the listeners need this.
And all these people came. It was this city's opportunity to regenerate itself as a world's playground like it was back in the 30s and 40s, and it failed miserably. There was people in hotels. They didn't have towels. They didn't have this. Just the basics of any kind of stay. And from that point on, Atlantic City got a bad reputation, and it started going really downhill in the 60s and 70s. Thus, the idea to bring gambling to Atlantic City. You see?
Okay.
And so now here we are now, now we're at the top again. And then what happened over the next 20, 25 years? So why do we keep going through this cycle like this, right? Well, and all I'm saying is we really have to think about that and fix it, because there will be another cycle where things will come up, but we got to be prepared to hold on to it. One of the ideas I think is needed back when we were talking about this, I think it was in the 90s, 2000s, Disney was thinking about putting mini Disney parks in different cities. And there was a talk here with a great proponent of Atlantic City and talk show host called Pinky Kravitz. Okay. He was on the radio for a long time, AM radio. He was a talk show host. He used to go to all kind of events, promote Atlantic City. He tried to do everything, monorails, and he would promote. And he used to just get, he used to get depressed too, because he was trying to get so much done and just couldn't do it, But the thing is if we go back to the top for some reason, we get up there again.
You never know.
How does the city hold on to it? You really need the right people, the right infrastructure, and safety for visitors. Like the French Canadians used to come here all the time.
Oh, really? We had a whole demographic.
Oh my God, the city used to be filled with French Canadians, but I don't know how long ago it was. There was a French Canadian right out here on Pacific and Pacific in Arkansas that got somebody
maybe mugged
him or hit his head against the pole, and then the news got up in Canada, and all of a sudden the Canadians started coming. Already down in Florida, there's a lot of Canadians that go there in the winter, and because of what's happening now with the tariffs and this and that, they're already, a lot of them are, ones that I've talked to said they're not coming back. Now, it's not all of them, but why lose any percentage of them? This is happening.
Understood.
This is a difficult thing. It's
difficult for many areas, not
there's
just
many
others.
components. There's a lot of variables. It's difficult to manage, and you need the right people sitting at the table.
So let me ask you a question. Speaking of right people, if talent such as yourself and other folks that were local here move, how are we going to get the right people in the room? If all the talent moves, how are we supposed to ever get the right people localized here?
The only way would be incentives, like big time incentives, like, where we're at now. We're at Sound.
On the pier.
Huh? No, the pier, but this is called Sound.
ACX1 Studio.
ACX1 Studio. I wanted to make sure I gave you guys a plug. You deserve it. This is Aces. But a incentive for them to come here and make an investment like this.
We have those. We have the CRDA. We have some investment opportunities.
Yeah, but what's not working? Like we had the Ducktown revitalization, and Frank Famica was trying. I don't know what happened, why it really didn't materialize. This is great. The walk. Look at those shops. I mean, when that first opened, everyone from the mainland used to come over here, including myself, you, right? When you wanted your skater clothes from Zoomies or right? Dad, can you buy me this T-shirt for $55 because it says Volcom? I go, have you noticed we got like 5 kids?
But actually here, there's some things that you're maybe just not seeing from the outside. Maybe you could help with the reputation, and folks such as yourself could. We have Skate AC. That's another plug. We have organizations. Maybe you just don't know about them. And folks that left the city don't know about them. And maybe that's what needs to spread through the nation, right? When you leave for Florida, okay.
I left here in 2015 for Connecticut.
I hear you. No, listen, you held out a lot longer than your counterparts. I'll give you that, right? Everybody else moved a lot sooner than you did. I'll give them that. But when you spread throughout the nation, okay, like our cousins in Virginia and uncle in Tennessee, like we need those areas when you're walking around telling people that you're from Atlantic City. What I need you to do moving forward is to say, oh yeah, they got this great revitalization going on. I need you to counter what is stated to you about the city. And I need that to be done by all my folks that grew up with my father.
Granted.
That's our opportunity. You're moving out of the city. The least you could do is, in this new area you move to, spread the word in a positive manner so that maybe people will take a visit here. That's all I ask.
Okay, so then what is, because I haven't been here, right, since 2015, and each time I come, I see something else closed, right? Another business or area. So what's happening that I can tell someone?
There's a lot. We'll go through a lot of them, but I want to bring up something that you mentioned, and it's that you see things that are closed. So maybe that's a key. Is that something that you're hearing from other people, that when they see things closed, the assumption is there's a decline?
Well, and
so maybe we can do something from a real estate perspective where instead of just a sign in the window, maybe there's something we can do to.
And I don't think it's fair to just say, because guess what? Everywhere I go, there's stores that are closed. Look, malls are closing. There was a lot of talk about taking closed malls and making them apartments, right? Because as of right now, just to talk a little bit about the real estate, if you crunch the numbers, it's actually more economical now to rent for most people. What do you mean? You're a realtor. You can make money.
Agree to disagree on that one. We'll get into that. In future episodes.
I'm just saying, hey, I watched CNBC. They had people on there talking about it.
Look at you already. Look. Why you got to do that? We need to promote the. Don't you want to promote independence? Don't you want families to be built? The younger generation to have a home. Isn't there something to be said about having something that's yours? It's your living room.
Yes.
You make it your own.
No.
There's memories. Look at all the memories you have in Ducktown. Okay, in your family home, 34 North Missouri Ave.
I'm not saying don't buy a home. I'm just saying I hear a lot now that because of the way the economy is, a lot of people are finding it less to rent than it is to keep up a home sometimes, right? But what I'm saying is you can switch things around here, but there's got to be an economic driver for people to move here. Like, let's take Allentown, right? Allentown. Okay. Right? There's that song.
Let's get a use case. There you go.
Okay, so there was a steel mill there. It shut down. What happened to people in Allentown? They couldn't even sell their homes, right? They couldn't even move away to go somewhere else. If they wanted to do that, they had to take some sort of huge loss. But so what I'm saying about here is there has to be reasons for people to move here, right? When there's build it and they will come, right?
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. That's what needs to be done here. And then once you get that happening, then you can fix the safety issue. Then the infrastructure gets fixed. It's a one thing after the other.
Okay.
Understood. And I'm just talking.
But you did lay out your experience. You did lay out your experience. It's very valid. I wanted to hear it all because here's the thing. There are some experts in development, but at some time, you have to think, what's the outside perspective? And to get your outside perspective as someone who grew up here is very important because there's many like you. I see the Ducktown local groups on Facebook, right? That's all money that could be coming to the city, and instead they're not visiting like they could be.
So when I talk about the right people at the table, these people need to go look to see what is being successful somewhere else. What's happening in Virginia Beach, Myrtle Beach? Why is that successful? What good's going on there? We don't always have to reinvent the wheel here. We could just go and find out what works in other places and other towns that maybe had our similar history of ups and downs and say, well, what can we do that's going to fix that? And I think and this is a problem in the United States. We don't always think longitudinal. We think short term. Look at the casinos let's knock them down, right? We got to think longer term. I think that's a big issue.
Yeah, because I did believe that there was going to be a park potentially built in that space where the casino was knocked down. Not sure what happened. Let's talk a little bit about what you've seen from the shops, okay? And why some are standing, why some have closed down. I know you wanted to make
You mean like Atlantic Avenue or
That's
something?
Right.
I mean, look, Atlantic Avenue was thriving when I was, in this, I would say I was born in 60 to like 75, Atlantic Avenue was just thriving. That's where I went to buy my clothes. Everything was, my music lessons were at Irv's there on Atlantic Avenue. My friend the Randos, they had a paper supply store. I mean, it was bustling. But when people moved out of the city because of urban sprawl, of suburban sprawl, then that's when the downfall came, right? So the population back, I think, in the 60s was like 55,000. I don't know what it is now. Maybe, 30,000?
I don't know.
Population of Atlantic City. So how are stores in the inner city? And this is no different than what's happening in many other cities. So that's one thing. Other stores that close, Hamilton Mall, it doesn't look great. You go in there. I went there last summer. I went into Macy's.
Okay. All right. Listen.
It was bad.
Calm yourself down.
But it is.
Right.
It's why I got to tell you, I'm excited about Texas Roadhouse. They came to.
Listen, you're gonna get me demonetized with.
We're
these.
flying high with the Texas Roadhouse out there.
This guy. Listen, I'm glad to get your perspective. Okay, because like I mentioned, I think that's the perspective of someone who came from here. So if anyone was going to support the city, it would be you. Right? It would be folks that you grew up with. And it sounds like you're having these conversations with folks you grew up with, and it's all the same.
Yeah, let's say Goodfellas that was out there, right? That was closed for how long? I think something else is going in there now, but it takes, there's lots of different businesses that fell because of the...
Well, there's change out everywhere.
Because of the opening of casinos somewhere else, right? And buses... really these bus tours don't come how it used to be.
Okay.
There was that kind of a thing.
But as a solution, as a go forward, getting the right people in the room, I appreciate that statement. But it's blanket. I got to be honest with you. Let's try to get to a better solution in the next 10 minutes.
I think when interest rates drop,
I think that'll be helpful, absolutely.
And when you have motivated developers that see a diamond in the rough.
We're seeing that.
But we need to see it on a greater scale, right? To really...
Exactly. The Orange Loop is fantastic, what's happening over there, but we need it at a larger scale.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the impetus that if something's going to happen, it's going to happen then when the interest rates and the economy turns. That's when people are going to say, okay, well, I've been sitting on all this money and investments. Now I'm ready to... I think Atlantic City can be this, can be that. Maybe if 3-4 developers got together, like these guys in, where were they from? And for the Orange.
We don't need to give their names and locations.
No, but what town were they from? Long Branch or somewhere?
They're from, I believe, we'll call it Ocean or Monmouth County.
Well, what's it? A secret?
What's wrong? I'm trying to be respectful.
What's this? The Illuminati? You can't.
All right. Regardless, there's investments from other areas.
I think a bunch of developers have to get together and force the issue, and have the city streamline things and just move out of the way a little bit.
Okay.
And that's the other thing too. I think you need some decent politicians.
Oh, here we go.
No, come on. Atlantic City historically has not had the greatest politicians.
I'm okay with a segment on this because it's at the end and I'll be able to cut it out if I have to. But talk to me about, all right, fine.
I thought we were supposed to talk the truth today with your father.
Politically, okay, we talked about actual societal changes in the city, financial changes in the city. Good. Let's talk politically, the changes you've seen. What were some of the biggest political changes? Maybe some politicians that made major changes, politicians that were a turning point in the city. Give me some history.
I don't know. I'm just stepping back from when I was younger.
I hear you.
I grew up in an area where there was a lot of mobsters, and a lot of mobsters controlled a lot of politicians. I think that's not happening now, but I think in other ways, you basically have corporations and developers and other people, not mobsters, that are controlling politicians in a different way. Same outcomes, though. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the tale of two cities.
Okay.
Sometimes sometimes it worked out better, before with the mobsters.
Here we go.
I'm just saying.
All right. Well, I'm going to close out now. I appreciate your time. I think it was fantastic to hear your perspective, to get some historic value from your experience, and also professional experience, and how you feel that could influence and make a difference in the city. If anyone wants to contact me or my father, you can reach out. I'll have our information in the comments section. Really appreciate you joining us today.
No, I want to thank you for having me. This is my first podcast. I'm proud of my son.
Don't date yourself. Don't date yourself.
What do you mean? No, I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I want everyone to listen to my son from this point forward very intently.
There you go. We appreciate that. This was more of an interview, but we will have more content coming your way, and appreciate everyone's engagement. Thank you.